There are only 6 days left in the South Carolina legislative session, and in this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups, I speak exclusively with State Representative William Cogswell one-on-one. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. Representative Cogswell, it's so good to see you.
Great to see you, Quintin.
I appreciate it. Let me get started here because there's so many issues going on right now.
Sure.
Let me take you to the headlines. Medical marijuana bill advances in South Carolina House. South Carolina House kills pro-solar bill after last-minute rule change. House votes to cut SC&G rates 18% and rejects the Senate plan. Tell me, what is it like to be you as a state representative for House District 110?
Well, it's busy. It's very busy right now. There's been a lot going on these past several weeks. A lot of things that I've been proud and excited to be part of. Some other things that I've been frankly disappointed by. You mentioned, for example, the solar bill.
Right.
Was really frustrated by what happened there. I think that was, that situation came straight out of the lobby. That we got 2 readings on that, two overwhelmingly positive majority votes on that bill, only to get it railroaded by a technicality on the 3rd reading. So that was really frustrating to see that happen, because we do need to have and look at alternative sources of energy, especially with this situation that we have with SCANA, which I don't have to tell you has been a real debacle. The more you learn about it, the more frustrating it is. From my perspective, I was one of the House members that really not willing to compromise on any premium for them to be able to charge, for SCANA to be able to charge the ratepayers for the failed nuclear facility, because it became pretty clear and evident that they were aware, or at least several people within their organization were aware that nuclear facility was not going to come online, and yet they continued to ask for rate increases. I think Peter McCoy and some of the other folks did a hell of a job. We really studied that issue in the House, and I really applaud them for their leadership. And they started looking into it back in January, right. And we voted on it. I believe it was in February. We didn't hear anything from the Senate until last week, and then they kind of asked us to go from the 18%, from cutting the entire 18% premium that SCANA was charging to just cutting 13%. And we rejected that plan, which I think was the right thing to do.
And what, do you have 6 days left in the legislative session?
We have, the hourglass is upside down, and the sands are falling pretty quickly. So yeah, it is frustrating, frankly, to be in this situation, and I think that the Senate put us here, or didn't need to. They wanted to get their own report done, but we had had a third party do an analysis for us. I mean, they just didn't really want to believe any of the research and hard work that we had put into it. Wanted to do their own deliberation, and that's fine, and I appreciate that. But they shouldn't have waited till we have just a few days left in the session to drop something like that when so many different people are affected. So I feel like I'm hopeful that they'll be able to come to a resolution, though I think in the House side, and me in particular, I'm pretty firm in my belief that there should be no premium charged to the ratepayers for that facility, given what we know. So,
why the politics?
Why the politics on SCANA, or why am I in politics?
Oh, yeah.
I think that I'll say this. I think they are a more deliberative body, or at least they claim to be. I think they wanted to be cautious, which I respect. But again, I think there was a lot of information that we gathered prior to session beginning. This is not new news. This has been going on we've known about this for almost a year now. So I'm not sure why they waited as long as they waited to begin really studying it in detail. I applaud Speaker Lucas and again Peter McCoy and Russell Lott for jumping on this, and really they worked all through last summer to get the facts and figures right that they presented to us, and it seems like now the Senate's just coming around to the same general conclusion that we did, but they have some people in their body that feel that we still need to protect SCANA, which again, I come from a business background, and if you make bad decisions like that, you need to bear the responsibility for it. I don't know of any business or private enterprise, except for regulated monopolies like we have in South Carolina with our utilities, that can make this big of a mistake and then just expect somebody else to pay for it. And to me, just common sense says it's not right.
6 days left. What do you, in your mind, want to do next to take care of your district, 110?
Well, I'm working on a couple of things. In particular, I'm trying to get the ability for it, which almost sounds ridiculous that I even have to, that the state even has authority over this, but trying to make sure that local municipalities have the ability to use their share of the accommodations tax to make repairs or address flooding problems. Right now the statute is unclear. It just says that the accommodations tax can only be spent in tourist related areas and for tourist related activities. Well, it bears the reason if the peninsula of Charleston, for example, is underwater, that's a tourist-related area that is affecting tourist-related activities, and we should be able to use that money to go towards flooding relief. But it's a process, man. I mean, I passed or pushed the bill out, had the bill written on the 1st of February, and I'm just now hoping that it will get read. It's passed subcommittee, it goes to full committee tomorrow, as I understand it, and then will be on the calendar. It's not a controversial vote. It is something that is kind of a no-brainer. It's more of a technicality, but it just goes to show you how, bogged down a lot of good ideas can become in our state house by what I feel is a very ineffective, inefficient structure of government, even for a democracy. I've been pretty well known for my belief that we need to really transform and change the structure of our government in the state of South Carolina, and that's something else I've been working on, as you're aware, for almost a year now. So.
March 20th, you announced your re-election. You said the following on your personal Facebook page, this quote, "I'm running again for South Carolina House 110 and will appreciate your support. I've been honored to represent Mount Pleasant and Charleston for 2 years, and I'm proud of the work I have done to date." So what is it like for you to represent Mount Pleasant and Charleston?
It's a real honor. I mean, again, as you know, politics is not something that I have ever really had much of a interest in, but like a lot of people, I got frustrated by what I saw happening, or what I saw not happening, frankly, especially when it comes to things like growth and infrastructure, which, given my day job, are two things that I have some real expertise in. So I thought I could bring that expertise up to Columbia, as well as some, kind of common sense. I mean, I'm not saying that in a negative way against my colleagues, but there are a lot of lawyers up there, there are a lot of people that have been in politics for quite some time, and it's good to have some fresh perspective, and especially some perspective that is used to looking at the bigger picture, and that's been what I've done in my job, my day job, I call it, for 20 years now. So, I've really enjoyed my time up there. It's been an honor representing Charleston and Mount Pleasant. But we've got some major problems that need to be addressed, and when I decided to run again, there's a lot of stuff that I want to get accomplished up there that we're kind of in mid-process on, and we're making some really good traction with. But it just takes some time.
And let me continue with that. You said this quote, still there's a lot to do.
Right.
My charge to make our government more accountable to the voters through a new constitution, and my efforts to get funding back to the low country are just gaining momentum, just like you just said. The new constitution, what does that look like 5 to 10 years now in your mind?
I think we need to have a system of government that has 3 co-equal branches of government, like we have in the federal constitution. But what we have in South Carolina, we have 3 branches of government, but they're not co-equal. I mean, the legislative branch, as I like to tell people, really runs everything. We elect the judges. We, do all the judicial screening. The governor has, I equate him to almost like the Queen of England. It's almost like a figurehead, because I truly feel that there are at least 10 to 20 different members of the House and Senate that have more power in terms of getting legislation passed than the governor. And that, I think, is just really holding us back. And if you really look back at the history of why we are structured the way we are, we're on our 7th Constitution. So it isn't like this is something that was a hallowed document that was written by people in powdered wigs with quill pens. This was written in 1895, and it was written to totally to disenfranchise the black vote. That was the pretty much sole reason why it was structured the way it was. And of course, the blatantly racist components of the 1895 Constitution have been corrected by the federal government through the Voting Rights Act. But we're still left with the structure. I mean, basically, Ben Tillman at the time felt like, he had just been governor for 8 years. And when he got out, he was concerned that an African American would become governor. And so as a result, he called his convention. He says it in his convention speech while he was calling it, and really wanted to strip the executive branch of almost all of its power, cede it to the legislature, which is still the structure that we're operating under today.
Sure.
So to me, it's it really is a fundamental flaw that we have that creates a lot of inefficiencies, especially when you have folks that are up there that are part-time legislators. I mean, most people don't realize that this is a part-time gig. You're not a full-time representative, and you're supposed to handle all fiduciary aspects of the state, all policy aspects of the state, and then all operational aspects of the state. And I find myself in a lot of subcommittee and committee meetings where you're dealing with things that frankly would be better handled by the executive branch. Not trying to pass the buck, but I mean, I just think it would be a hell of a lot more efficient if we had something that more closely resembled the federal Constitution. So that's why I, along with overwhelming majority of my freshman colleagues in the House and the Senate, proposed calling for a new Constitution. And we're very serious about it. I really think it is something that needs to happen for our state, because I really think the structure that we have now holds us back from fulfilling our full potential. The other thing it does, not to belabor the point, but it really exacerbates the problems that we see from the areas that have strong economic growth and the more rural areas that have virtually no or negative economic growth. And so what you're dealing with is a situation like here in the Low Country where you have too much growth. I mean, we can't handle the growth that we're facing. And our growth is almost compounding if you look at the numbers, which I have. Whereas Allendale, Bamberg, you name it, a number of counties, Calhoun County, they have, it's almost, suffice to say, the past 10 years, they have had outright negative growth. I mean, going down, and it's not a very healthy trend for us to have statewide. And when you have a structure of government that is, really dependent on, this legislator or that legislator wanting this or that because they've kind of amassed all the power, and nobody's looking out for the state as a whole, it becomes very problematic.
And between now and the election, what will you say one-on-one to a potential voter in House District 110 about you?
Well, I would say that I'd appreciate their vote. That I hope that what I've been doing up there to date is something that they can be proud of as their representative. I mean, again, I'm looking at it from macro level, restructuring the government, no small task, but on a micro level, things like getting the accommodations tax passed, pressing and arguing for home rules so that Mount Pleasant has the ability to ban plastic bags if they so choose. Basically making sure that the state stays out of our business as much as we can. So I would ask for their vote to help me to continue doing that and help me to push these initiatives, which I think are very critical to the future of our state and certainly to the future of our region. So I'd ask that they vote for me to let me keep up the work up there.
Representative William Cogswell, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this.
Yeah, glad to do it, Quintin.
Anytime.
Glad to do it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, man.
Thank you.